They met, they married, and created a line of high-achieving people. But Moira didn't have to go much further back to find evidence of her family's roots in a much darker place, slavery. I'm joined by Paul Crooks now, author and a family historian, who's traced his family back to Jamaica in 1777. We saw Moira going to Dominica. It's in the Caribbean, it's expensive to get to. Could she have done it from home?
Most definitely. In the National Archives in Kew, London, there are slave registers there. And those slave registers were created in 1817 by a gentleman by the name of James Stevenson. And the reason why he did that was really to police the activities of traders who were still trafficking Africans from Africa to the Caribbean after 1807, when the slave trade was abolished. So these records will contain all the slaves on any given plantation, and that's an important source of information here.
And at the Royal Geographical Society, there's any number of maps, aren't there? We've got one here of Antigua. I think the plantation where Moira's ancestors worked is on there. That's
right. They will contain the names of plantation owners, usually Europeans who have settled in the Caribbean, and that's important for African Caribbeans too, because it's how we came by our names, and you would use that to find out the plantation that your forebears would have worked on. Everything you've talked about relates to sort of hundreds of years ago, but there was obviously a lot of movement amongst Afro-Caribbeans in the last century, more recent history. What records are kept of all that? Right. There will be passenger lists which will record the Windrush generation, my father's generation, who came here in the 1940s, 50s and early 60s. If you're looking for ancestors that would have come from there, you would look at the records in the public records office, and we've just got one here for Moira.
This is before the Windrush generation.
This is, in fact, that's right. Actually, this is 1935. But it does contain the name of Marjorie C. Gordon.
And this is the passenger list on the boat they came across.
That's right. And it shows Marjorie coming with 3 other siblings. They settled at the convent in Romsey, Hampshire. It shows that she came as a student and that she was from Bermuda.
What about Moira's ancestors? They weren't of the Windrush generation. They were here in numbers at the end of the 19th century.
That's right.
But there was a not insubstantial Afro-Caribbean community about then.
Since the 1700s, there have been black people living in London. I think we've made up 3% of the population. That's about 10,000, 20,000 people. And from the 1500s onwards, Africans were being born in this country too.
Thanks for that, Paul. For those of you wondering where our regular genealogist, Nick Barrett, has got to, don't despair, at least not if you're digital viewers. A press of the red button, as if by